I will discuss what I learned in this module. So, what are you guys waiting for? Let's go! Discipline is derived from the Latin discipulus. In Old English, it is supposedly derived from disciple or discipula, meaning the one who follows another for the purpose of learning, especially the person followers of Jesus Christ. During his life, the 12 apostles chosen or called by him to be his immediate associates, a biblical loan from Latin discipulus, or pupil, student, follower. That's what you call disciple. The term discipline has a long history in English, where the earliest, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, is recorded in 1398. Chaucer used it in relation to science as early as 14,005. A more specific use of the term in relation to areas of teaching and scientific inquiry occurs in English from mid-17th century and onwards. Discipline bears similar meanings in Sanskrit. Instructions, education, and a Greek term training to obey rules, self-control. In ancient Rome, Disciplina was a minor goddess who represented martial discipline. She was primarily worshipped by soldiers and is likely to have been a creation of Hadrian. A German etymological dictionary, on the other hand, gives the following explanation of the origin of the German discipline. Discipline comes from disciplina, which is derived from disciple. The term discipline, deriving from the Latin discere, was of course already known in the early Middle Age. Until the 18th century, the history of the term disciplina was closely linked to the history of the term doctrina. In fact, the terms are frequently indistinguishable. Characteristically, they are used in the context of teaching and instruction and refer to a systematic entirety of doctrines with which a student is presented in the context of instructions. If the two terms are to be differentiated, the doctrina refers to the teacher's side in instruction and disciplina to the student's side. Understanding discipline. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the noun discipline has two meanings, which is: number 1, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. And number 2, a branch of knowledge, typically one studied in higher education. In addition, discipline can be used as a verb in the sense train someone to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. Discipline is commonly used in contexts where a distinct chain of authority exists, such as the church or the military. In this sense, academic discipline can be seen as a form of specific and rigorous training that will turn out practitioners who have been disciplined by their discipline for their own good. What is self-discipline? Self-discipline is the ability to push yourself forward, stay motivated, and take action regardless of how you're feeling physically or emotionally. Self-discipline is different from self-motivation or willpower. Motivation and willpower contribute to it, as do persistence, the ability to follow through on your intentions, and hard work. Why work on your self-discipline? Self-discipline is useful in many areas of our lives. For instance, it's what forces you to do high-quality work, even when you don't feel like it. It helps you to stick with and achieve top goals that you set for yourself. How to develop self-discipline? Self-discipline is like a muscle. The more you work on developing it and using it, the stronger it will become. However, it's just as important not to start out with goals that are too ambitious. Instead, set small goals and increase the level of challenge slowly over time. The more you practice, the better you become. And this is the 5-step to how you start developing your self-discipline. Number 1, choose a goal. Begin by choosing just one goal that you want to focus on to develop your self-discipline. For instance, perhaps you want to start exercising every evening, or you want to read one leadership book a week to enhance your skills. Number 2, find your motivation. Once you've chosen a goal, list the reason why you want to achieve it. Try to express this reason in a positive way. So instead of saying, I want to exercise 3 times a week to lose weight, say, I want exercise so that I have the energy to play with my kids and work successfully. Number 3, identify obstacles. Now, you need to identify the obstacles that you'll likely face when you're working toward your goal and devise a strategy for overcoming each one. For instance, imagine that your goal is to read one leadership book a week to enhance your skills. Number 4, replace old habits. When we're developing self-discipline, we're often trying to break a bad habit and replace it with something more productive. However, if that habit is tied into a certain time of day of routine, breaking it can leave a hole. If we don't replace that habit with something else, then its absence becomes even more noticeable. Last, number 5, monitor your progress. As you work on your self-discipline, pay attention to how you're feeling as it develops and it strengthens. You might feel free, happy, proud, and energized. Also, think about keeping a journal to write down your self-discipline goals and to track your progress. More tips for self-discipline. Try to avoid distraction when you begin to develop your self-discipline. It's important to reward yourself when you experience success. Don't let a fear of failure or an occasional setback discourage you. And now, let's move on to our next topic. Types of discipline. There are so many types of discipline you need to know. Firstly, I want you to know first what classroom discipline or school discipline is all about. To define discipline, one must refer to the strategies of teacher uses to manage student behaviors during lessons, as well as the code of behavior that the students must comply with. There are 3 types of discipline according to school. 1. Preventative discipline is about establishing expectations, guidelines, and classroom rules for behavior during the first day of lessons in order to proactively prevent disruption. Number 2. Supportive discipline. On the other hand, occurs in the case of a transition. It is usually a verbal warning or a suggestion for the correction of behavior. And lastly, number 3. Corrective discipline comes into play when a student has failed to change his or her behavior after repeated attempts at supportive discipline. It mostly refers to the consequences delivered following an instruction. Now you know the types of discipline according to class or school. Okay, let's move on. In the previous explanation part, we learned the 3 types of discipline in the class or school. But now, I want you to know also the 3 types of self-discipline. 3 types of self-discipline. There are many ways that we can implement self-discipline practices every day. Here are the examples of the 3 types: active discipline, reactive discipline, and proactive discipline. Number 1. Active discipline is doing what you need to in that very moment, such as eating a healthy meal or limiting your distraction while studying and exercising. You work actively disciplined when you choose to eat healthy instead of unhealthy. You were disciplined when you took the time to study and turned your phone off. Another example happened when you decided to exercise instead of watch TV or surf the internet. Number 2. Reactive discipline is controlling your thoughts or behaviors when dealing with unforeseen situations, such as getting a flat tire on your way to work, dealing with a rude person, and locking your car keys in your car. Instead of complaining, you use this situation as opportunities to learn. When you got the flat tire, you got the tire fixed. In that moment, you choose to be grateful that it was just a flat tire and no one was hurt. Number 3. Proactive discipline is doing things in advance in an effort to better control a situation, such as bringing an umbrella on a rainy day, creating a to-do list, and going to bed on time. Let's proceed to our next topic, stage of discipline. Let us see now the stage of discipline. Stage 1. Verbal or writing warning. Other than simply discarding the behavior altogether, the most lenient form of discipline most employers use a warning. A verbal warning is the least severe. A written warning documents the incident and carries more weight, particularly if it goes into a personal file. Some companies use escalation in warnings, for example, verbal, written, second written, and final. Stage 2. Probation. After warning even had an effect, employers often place employees on some form of probation. Stage 3. Suspension. Suspension is a temporary removal of employee from his or her job. Stage 4. Termination. This is the least resort. Sometimes disciplinary matters becomes too unworkable. That is best for employee and employer to part ways. Why is discipline important? Number 1. Discipline builds good habits. 2. Discipline helps you to procrastinating. Number 3. Discipline helps you manage your time better. Number 4. Discipline helps you achieve your goals. Number 5. Discipline boosts your self-esteem. Number 6. Discipline helps you master things. Number 7. Discipline makes you more reliable. Number 8. Discipline improves your ability to manage challenging emotions. 9. Discipline is one area affects discipline in others. And lastly, discipline helps reduce stress. Powerful ways to cultivate extreme self-discipline. Learning to effectively lead yourself and others all comes down to discipline. There are specific strategies you can execute to learn self-discipline and gain the willpower to live a happier, more fulfilling life. First, know your strengths and weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, whether they're the desire for alcohol, tobacco, unhealthy food, and obsession over social media. They have a similar effect on us. Self-awareness is a powerful tool for comfort zone expansion, but it requires constant focus and acknowledging your shortcomings, whatever they may be. Number 2, remove temptations. By simply removing the biggest temptation from your environment, you will greatly improve your self-discipline. Number 2, remove temptations. By simply removing the biggest temptation from your environment, you will greatly improve your self-discipline. Number 4, practice daily diligence. We aren't born with self-discipline. It's a learned behavior. And just like on any other skill you want to master, it requires daily practice and repetition. It must become habitual. Number 5, create new habits and rituals. Acquiring self-discipline and working to instill a new habit can feel daunting at first, especially if you focus on the entire task on hand. To avoid feeling intimidated, keep it simple. Number 6, change your perception about willpower. If you believe you have a limited amount of willpower, you probably won't surpass those limits. Number 7, give yourself a backup plan. Psychologists use a technique to boost willpower called implementation intention. That's when you give yourself a plan to deal with a potentially difficult situation you know you will likely face. Number 8, find trusted coaches or mentors. The development of expertise requires coaches who are capable of giving constructive, even painful feedback. Real experts are extremely motivated students who seek out such feedback. And lastly, forgive yourself and move forward. Even with all our best intention and well-laid plans, we sometimes fall short. It happens. You will have ups and downs, great successes and dismal failures. The key is to keep going. Don't let yourself get wrapped up in guilt, anger, or frustration, because this emotion will only drag you further down and impede future progress. Continue to eat. It can also improve your learning and enhance your performance.